will grow for the county as well. And Osceola is a little bit ahead in terms of the planning for this North Ranch, so they will benefit from the connectivity needed for that part of the holdings to be successful as well. So I wanted to share a bit with you about the North Ranch sector plan in Osceola County because it's a very similar process as to what we will be looking to do here in Orlando. So this plan was adopted in 2015, so nearly 10 years ago now, and it's about more than twice the size. It's 133,000 acres. It included a commitment to preserve environmentally sensitive areas, but allow continued use of the most productive agricultural land, as well as securing water supply and providing commitments for infrastructure. So development there is expected to begin in 2040 and reach build out in approximately 2080. So again, this is a very long-term plan, and we're looking in similarly long time frames for this property being annexed into the city. So this is a map of the North Ranch area, and it shows the various nodes of development as well as the open space and preservation areas. And according to Osceola County's website, the purpose of this sector plan is to have in place a framework to avoid piecemeal decisions, minimize unforeseen impacts, and establish a vision for great communities to be built in future generations. And that's really something that I think we can look to as a positive goal for this property as well. This shows here a breakdown of the acreage. Again, the majority of land 46% is proposed to be preserved for environmental uses, with another 15% available for greenways, parks, and other open space, which leaves about 35% available for development and about 4% for roadways and transit. So that does result in about 182,000 residential units and 83 million square feet of non-residential uses. And I'm available if you have questions.
Questions for Elizabeth at this point? Then I'm going to call on Brandon Arrington, who is the chairman of the Osceola County Commission, for further comment.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners, for allowing me this time to speak today. As the Mayor said, I'm Commissioner Brandon Arrington, and I'm also the current chairman of Central Florida Expressway as well. And thank you once again and your staff for allowing me this opportunity to speak. So should the City of Orlando decide to annex Deseret Ranch property located north of Osceola County, we would welcome working with you to coordinate the implementation of infrastructure, economic development, and environmental preservation. We already have a long track record of working together, from lobbying our state and federal partners to bring Sunrail a reality here in our community, to our most recent partnership, where the City of Orlando coordinated with Osceola County and private developers to provide $6.3 million for the widening of Boggy Creek Road. As you know, the Florida State Statute 163.3177 requires that every local government must have a comprehensive plan that is structured where it will accommodate development based upon beaver population projections. During the 2023 session, Senator Angolia went so far to say that if local government does not live up to their population projections, we should punish them. Osceola County has worked with the state. So in the vein of good and predictable planning, Osceola County has worked with the state and Florida and adopted the North Ranch Sector Plan. You can find all the documents of the plan on our current county website. And if you have any information, I'm sure our staff will be glad to follow up and provide that for you. This plan lays out in detail, as you just saw, how growth will move forward to accommodate our population projections to the year 2080. This approach allows us to create a viable transportation network and a mixed-use development to create a better quality of life for Osceola County. More importantly, however, with good planning, the North Ranch Master Plan, as you heard, will preserve over 50% of the property in conservation, creating environmental corridors that will allow for the natural migration of native species and preserving open space for aquifer recharge. So should the city decide to annex Deseret property located to our north, please know that Osceola County is prepared to work with you to create a unified development plan that will foster coordinated infrastructure improvements, spur economic development, and preserve the environment. Thank you so much for your time, and y'all have a good night.
Thank you for being here, Commissioner. Okay, we do have a lot of requests for public comment. So before we open it up to public comment, let me just underscore something for many of our Orange County residents who probably haven't been to the city of Orlando and that we take for granted here in the city, and that's the value of civility and rational discourse and not chaos. I couldn't help but notice one of the Orange County interest groups that I think is represented here posted some pretty ugly comments on social media over the weekend, one implying that this commission and I are corrupt. So I want to let you know that juvenile name calling doesn't work here. Specifically, you can say whatever you want to me and about me. I have the thickest skin that you have ever seen. But I'm not going to tolerate you saying things about my commissioner. And I had to have a little dust up with, what's that group that was here last week? That Amendment 1 that was trying to attack one of our commissioners. So they've earned respect and they deserve better. And in my view, this type of hyper-partisan extremist rhetoric is exactly what's wrong with the Capitol in D.C., what's wrong with the statewide politics that we have today, and we won't tolerate it here. So I also want to let you know, based on an editorial that was in the paper, that we don't get bullied, we don't get pushed around. Farmland Reserve has nothing that we want, so it's not like they could coerce us somehow to annex them. So any bullying tactics, I can assure you, they're simply not going to work here. So let's have a civil conversation. It's probably going to be a long one. I think I have about 40 requests for comments. So the way our process works is we would like you to state your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes, and you can't give your time over to somebody else. You can use your 3 minutes, but you can't cede it to somebody else to use. Okay? And I am going to, you know what, Commissioner Wilson, you're like second to last. And I was going to do everything, we try to do things in the order that they would, or that they have been presented, so people don't complain that I'm favoring people from the bottom of the list. But if everybody's okay and we can do it by a show of hands, we'll let Commissioner Wilson go first, if you're okay with that. Especially since I did refer to her in my comments. So, Commissioner Wilson, you're first up. But you only get 3 minutes.
And I appreciate that. I honestly, the reason why I'm probably next to last is I quite frankly didn't plan anything in writing, but I just wanted to come and talk to you as colleagues, as people I've worked with and alongside of for various entities in our communities. We care about the same people and we care about the same things. So despite my disappointment that you sort of lectured me a little bit about the stuff that's happening at the county, I believe that given enough time and hitting a pause button, that we can work together to make sure that the things that all of those speakers today are worried about can be addressed. Yeah, the county has a long history of horrible planning, and they were 17 years behind in assessing appropriate impact fees, and we didn't do a great job of protecting wetlands. But we've done an incredible job of making gains in the regulatory sphere of environmental protection over these last 4 years. And so even though you're hearing a little bit from, I believe, some of the interest that this is a rush because of a ballot measure, I also think it's because there's been some things that we're asking anybody that goes through this process to do to make sure they're keeping our residents safe from flooding, keeping our environment protected and our ecosystems whole. I think what we know about urban planning is that densification comes from the inside of the urban core. It doesn't come from knocking down forests or taking up every last piece of available permeable surfaces. So we want to make sure that we're allowing those places to stay as wild as we can while we go up. And if you look at the wasted parking spaces we have across the city and the county, we know there's so many opportunities for adaptive reuse, and I'm excited to talk about the one for affordable housing, and I'm excited to look for those opportunities. But if that means going through our forests and through our last pieces of grazing land, we're all going to die from that, because that is not going to be a sustainable way for us to get water recharge, for us to be able to protect future generations. So I just wanted to say that I really appreciate the work you all do every day. I look forward to talking more about this, and I'm hoping that you see enough interest in this topic to hit the pause button, circle back, and maybe we can make sure that the questions that we're all concerned with about that sprawl and about going out into these unpaved areas get addressed before they're all paved over. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to call 3 at a time so you can be ready in the queue, and if you would like to, if you're the second and third person, want to come around and take a seat so you can pop right up, that would be fine. So Andrew Mai, who has become a regular here, followed by Pamela Seibel and Nelson Betancourt.
My name is Andrew Mai. I'm Assistant County Attorney for Orange County, Florida, 201 South Roslyn Avenue, Orlando, Florida. I'm here representing the county, and the county requests that this annexation be delayed or denied. The county and the city are currently engaged in a dispute resolution process. The county contends that the Sunbridge properties were not annexed in accordance with the law. Should the process result in overturning the Sunbridge annexations, then this voluntary annexation will not be contiguous. It would be prudent to delay this annexation until resolution of the conflict with the county. In addition, the annexation before you today is defective because it creates enclaves and pockets. The county has submitted an expert report opposing this annexation and indicating the harm caused by the annexation to the county. The county requests that you delay or deny the adoption of this annexation ordinance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Pamela Seibel, followed by Nelson Betancourt, followed by Julie Rathmel.
Is there a time, clock?
Madam Clerk, how does she see her time?
It's not, okay, there it is now. Okay, don't start yet. Greetings to all and thank you. Pamela Seibel, 16011 Old Cheney Highway, 32833. In a crisis situation, minutes count, and saving lives are rely on response times. When the City of Orlando receives a 911 call, if they need additional service or maybe a solo response, the process to reach Orange County 911 takes an average of 5 minutes. Every minute of delay could increase risk, damage, cost of life, or even more. Through a public records request, Orange County Fire and Rescue Department provided data for the current fiscal year to date. City of Orlando reached out to Orange County 528 times. That's just, the year is still going. For fire, 41 times for EMS. On-scene percentage, 56%. Orange County's calls can include expensive equipment provided, including ladder trucks that cost over $1 million a piece. Sometimes they're pulling the only engine truck at an Orange County station. Calls by the city, besides delayed response, cause a domino effect. If a unit is out on a city call, response time for calls in Orange County District may get delayed, needed equipment and staff not available, plus higher department costs. Orange County Fire and Rescue does not receive funds for calls and service from City of Orlando, just the expenses. Extra help does happen in reverse at times, yet lopsided. City of Orlando was called 31 times by Orange County for fire responses, versus 528 times. The city called Orange County. Similarly, the county called the city only 7 times for EMS, versus 41 times Orlando called the county. And their on-scene percentage was 52 versus 56. There are no plans to fix situation, according to the City of Orlando 2024 budget that I saw. No funding for a fire station project, which cost an estimate $7 million plus, big equipment, etc. City budget needs to be reevaluated. Central Florida Expressway has plans to build toll roads in area that are in the rural area, designed to serve residents in the City of Orlando, including recent annexation of Sunbridge. The CFX 515, for example, will cause major damage to the rural and ag area, environment, divided community, as well as impact rural lifestyle many of us all enjoy. Residents oppose these measures. City is promoting urban sprawl, and it's getting worse. Builders don't pay impact fees until they pull permit. Therefore, I know I'm running out of time. I'm a big safety advocate. City has to say, wait a minute, put a pause. Therefore, I ask, as a longtime resident, family with firefighters, please vote no today regarding the annexation. Thank you.
Thank you. Nelson Betancourt, Julie Rathmel, Bobby Beagles.
Nelson Betancourt, 5350 East Scaly Street, Orlando, Florida, 328112. I am strongly opposed to the annexation of the 52,000 plus acres of ranch land to the City of Orlando. It is a slap in the face to Orange County government and its citizens by seeking to bypass the upcoming vote in November that will potentially pose limitations for this kind of sprawl-inducing scheme cynically sold as smart growth. 2, food security is national security. Let me give that to you again. Food security is national security. At a time when our food and energy supply lines are unstable and precarious due to geopolitical events, we need to do everything possible to preserve the land for the sake of food and social security. This land should be preserved for agriculture and future generations to have a healthy, close, and stable source of food, for the employment and care of the land by a new generation of farmers, for water and land conservation, clean recreation, and perhaps some clean economic development. 3, we know that development does not pay for itself. The taxpayers of Orlando and Orange County will end up picking up the tab for funding shortfalls and infrastructure expenses, while at the same time degrading our transportation system. Under Orange County's Vision 2050, we can accommodate future population growth without degrading our own nest. This annexation scheme is absolutely wrong for people, place, and prosperity. It must be denied and stopped. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Julie Rathmel, Bobby Beagles, Rachel Hildebrand.
Before I start, is this somebody's cell phone? Thank you. I'm Julie Rathmel. I'm the Executive Director for Audubon Florida. We are Florida's oldest statewide conservation organization, founded actually here in Central Florida 124 years ago. We have 100,000 members across the state and work to advance common sense solutions based on science to Florida's challenges related to water, wildlife, habitat, and climate. I came down from my office in Tallahassee today to speak. This may be the most consequential issue that's brought before you during your tenure. And yet it's advancing with extraordinary speed, little data or analysis, and the absolute certainty of generational impacts for the people of Central Florida. With 119 square miles of area in Orlando's current boundaries, this annexation would add another 82 square miles. When any of us are asked to make personal decisions that would commit our assets and those of our children and our grandchildren for 70 years, which is how long this build-out will take, it would give us pause. We would be exacting, gathering all the data and analysis we could find to inform our decision, gaming out all the potential scenarios to ensure we're in the strongest negotiating position. I guarantee the applicants have done just that. And now the taxpayers of Central Florida are counting on you to do the same. Like you said, Mr. Mayor, I do agree, change is coming to East Orange County and Deseret lands. It's undeniable. But what that change looks like is yet to be determined. The applicants understandably want to maximize their flexibility and entitlements, to maximize their build-out and their financial benefit. There's nothing wrong with that. It's their financial prerogative. But as representatives of taxpayers and the public interest, it's this council's prerogative and obligation to be equally rigorous and strategic. The supporting documents for this item on first reading would be skeletal for an annexation of 52 acres, let alone 52,000. And the effect of granting this annexation would be to concede negotiating power before negotiations have ever begun. That's because a sector plan can be undertaken by either the county or the city. It doesn't have to be part of the city to happen, but it's the regulations of the governing body that will set the sideboards for that, and this annexation will have the effect of lowering the sideboards for that negotiation. That power, that difference lies in the difference between Orange County and city regulations. Because Orange County regulations do a better job of protecting wetlands. And we know that there's a history of landowners seeking annexation to take advantage of this difference. Remember that in 2020, the 70-acre Park, Bark, and Fly project near Orlando International was facing fines and mandated restoration for filling wetlands in violation of Orange County regulations. So they sought and were granted city annexation, and the wetlands issues became moot. These are the kinds of issues that have to be considered when going into making this decision. Please make this decision with a no vote so that this council can be remembered as strategic in preserving the negotiating power and resources of Central Florida taxpayers. Thank you.
Julie, and we will formally invite Audubon to the table as we go through the planning processes.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Bobby Beagle, Rachel Hildebrand, Marjorie Holt.
At least I didn't have to drive to Tallahassee to see you.
Good to
Bobby
see you,
Beagles,
Bobby.
21302 Fort Christmas Road, Christmas, Florida, a resident of Orange County since 1942. I'd like to know how many acres is north of the B-line, how many acres is south of the B-line on this project. The reason, the north of the B-line comes all the way to Highway 50. I've been a resident of Orange County since 1942, and we've owned a ranch in Christmas since 1952. We don't need it. It's a shame that they want to move. I understand that land in Florida or land in Orange County is very expensive. But at the same time, you can hire one 5 acres, or it'd be one house per quarter acre. And you and I both know these projects has went on for years and years. And they come to here, they come to the county commissioners and say one thing, then they come back, and they come back, and they come back. It's not fair to us who have lived in Christmas, Florida since the 1800s to have to put up with this project south 50 to the B-line. It joins us. It joins Wedgefield. They should be able to draw a line and say, we don't want no development north of the B-line. Simple for you to do it. That section south of the B-line is very unhousable. There's not very many houses there at all. So you got to stop it. I can understand the city needing money. I can understand the county needing money. And to protect us, you got to stop growth somewhere. Yes, I've been president of Orange County Cattlemen Association, not no more. I've been to the largest ag organization, Orange County Farm Bureau, as their president and as their executive director, not no more. My main goal is my 12-year-old grandson will have a ranch to graze his cows on, and we won't be pushed to develop. I'm north of Highway 50. My lease land is on the opposite side from the owner that's wanting to do this project. Mayor, you and I have been friends a long time. We don't need it. We got your sewers plant, Orange Bridge water is pumped to Christmas already. We don't need nothing else. We put up with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bobby. Okay, Rachel Hildebrand, Marjorie Holtz, Kelly Semrad.
Yes, Rachel Hildebrand can't be here, so just to let you know, she's not here.
Okay, Rachel is not here. Marjorie Holt, then
Yes, and I-
Kelly Semrad, and then Lee Perry.
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor and City Commissioners. I am Marjorie Holt. I reside at 8502 Elveron Avenue, Orlando, Florida, 32817. I am representing the Sierra Club Central Florida Group at P.O. Box 941692, Maitland, Florida, 32794. I have been in the environmental trenches, I might say, for a number of years, and sat as a stakeholder representing the Sierra Club for the North Ranch Sector Plan. And I can convey to you that what is shown as environmental protection and open spaces is part of the regulatory process. There is nothing that was voluntarily given for that master plan that's above and beyond any of the regulatory process. And I would respectfully like to sit on the planning process, should you approve, this East Orlando Desert Ranch planning area as a stakeholder as well. I have attached 3 letters with, you probably have, I emailed in earlier, the 3 letters of violation to date that have not been resolved with Orange County Environmental Protection for a borrow pit that was dug and intruded into the wetlands, and then when the hurricane came, a berm was placed there. So to date, no response from the ranch. The ranch indicates that they're great at conserving natural resources, and that's their first consideration in planning. I've also sat as advisory individual for the Sierra Club with the Central Florida Expressway Authority. We've recently looked at the 515 southern extension that would connect up to 545, the toll road through Split Oak. And that 515 extension potentially impacts Florida's wildlife corridor and the Florida Forever lands. So there's been a litany of potential impacts that would come about to accommodate Deseret, and they result from the CFX's 2045 master plan and the East Central Florida Task Force. The
I think that's your time.
okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Kelly Semrad, Lee Perry, Elizabeth Connor.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Dr. Kelly Semrad. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you for your service. I am here to ask you to not vote in support of the annexation of the 52,470 acres. The background on this, I'm the citizen who submitted the rural boundary for consideration to our Charter Review Commission in July of 2023. It spent 18 months there under study where other municipalities frequented the meetings, came and provided feedback. There was ample opportunity. The meetings were noticed. It went through several iterations of review. Judge Ford was going to vote on it. Legislators changed state law to preempt the CRC from putting this on the Orange County ballot. When that didn't work because it went to our Board of County Commissioners and the commissioners opted to move it forward to our ballot, they went to the Supervisor of Elections and tried to change the deadline from the end of August to June 14th. When that didn't work, they tried to sue the county to prevent it from being on the ballot. This is a very long process that has happened, and it isn't because, it's not rash and it's not rushed. I would also like to say that one home on average per 10 acres is not urban sprawl, it's rural development, and rural areas are entitled to develop as well. This type of annexation, when we look at it, is fiscally irresponsible. We're flooding ourselves out of Florida. Our property insurance is going up. Homes that never needed flood insurance now need flood insurance. People aren't just being outpriced by rent increases. People are being outpriced by utility cost increases as well as insurance. We hear that OUC needs to increase electricity costs, needs to dig deeper into the aquifer. There is no water in that area to support it. Further, there are no safety measures to ensure that as we continue to grow, 2/3 the time size of Orlando City through this annexation, that it doesn't cost the quality of lives of so many people, and perhaps even cost lives because emergency services can't get to people timely. I would also like to say that Osceola, who's here and eager to work on this plan, is contemplating increased impact fees because they can't get around on their roads any longer. I don't want to live like that. I don't think that anybody wants to live like that. Further, the people of East Orange County, not one of them moved out there to live in the city of Orlando. Many of them out there have small business family farms. That's their livelihood. That's where they reside. We have historic cities out there like Christmas that are striving to remain an agricultural community. So what I hear you guys really saying, when I hear, Mayor Buddy Dyer, you speaking, what I hear is that this property owner is entitled to development rights, and not one person here is contesting those rights. What we are contesting is that them seeking a variance for increased land density and intensity by way of annexation. That's a loophole, and it's wrong. Please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Lee Perry, Elizabeth Connor, Mark Strasser.
I'm not Lee. I'm Elizabeth Connor. I live at
Is
27.
Lee not here? Lee's not here.
Lee? I'm not Lee.
Well, hold on. Lee Perry?
I didn't see her in the line.
You're Elizabeth?
Yes, sir.
Well, let's see if Lee is here. Mr. Perry, you're up. You're next, Elizabeth.
Hi, everyone. Sorry about that. My name is Lee Perry. I reside at 32810. I was just talking to Commissioner Arrington, who openly admitted that Osceola County does not have enough tax revenue currently to maintain the infrastructure that they need in order to sustain the sprawl. However, this is about needing taxes. Ultimately, needing taxes when the city of Orlando currently spends about 53% of your budget on police and fire, and you still have extremely long periods where people are not able to get emergency services out by Lake Nona. My generation is going to pay for the long-term costs of this sprawl. I'm already in a situation where my neighbors are flooding dramatically, and people are losing their homes in the urban core. This is a fiscally irresponsible mistake that you guys will be passing the buck on people like me. Simultaneously, OUC is trying to raise rates and charge people less for their solar energy in order to subsidize sprawl and continue to, expand their grid for this type of sprawl. And it's really unfortunate for us, the taxpayers who are here, where we have to see our wildlife killed and disregarded. We have to see our conservation land completely disregarded and used to perpetuate sprawl and put a toll road. And we're doing everything that we can to fight for the resources to bring our quality of life to a better place, and yet we turn around and we continue to see these terrible plans. And so many of us are spending countless hours. My husband has stage 4 cancer right now, and I'm here begging for you guys to listen and think about my generation and the next generation when you're making decisions like this, because sprawl does not pay for itself. Go for Tortoises cannot hire a lobbyist and go up and preempt our ability to raise our impact fees or work backroom deals in order to, get away with paying everything that you need to in order to maintain the infrastructure. Our folks are already sitting on broken roads. We're already struggling. I go downtown to the Mills 50 area or down Cimarron. I see countless empty, sprawling plazas, and I don't see transit. I don't see economic opportunities in the core. We should be making it so expensive for sprawl, and trying to get developers to invest in infill where it makes the most sense. I see children getting hit by cars on roads that our tax dollars should be putting money in the urban core to create pedestrian safety walkways. But instead, we're sprawling so far out of the county line, and it's doing nothing but costing us, the taxpayers, long term.
Okay,
So please
thank
say
you very
no.
much.
Thank you.
Elizabeth Connor, Mark Strasser, Tom Nurit. Now you're up, Elizabeth.
Okay, thank you. Back again. My name is Liz Connor. I live at 2744 South Tanner Road, and I urge you to vote against the annexation and vote in favor of the people, the animals, and in the environment. Stop listening to the developers over the will of the people. I know that that's their right, but this is our right. We do not want to see over 52,000 acres annexed into the city, expanding harmful sprawl, damaging our wildlife corridors, and destroying our waterways. Annexations like this eliminate rural land use designation, pave the way for irresponsible sprawl, and getting through, it sets a precedent so this can be cited in future uses in places that want to be annexed. In the words of an article that just came out, growth doesn't pay for itself. It doesn't pay no matter how many doors conversations happen behind, impact fees are high enough, and we the taxpayers have to foot that bill. Instead, we should be focusing our energy on completing actual projects that are in use right now. The city should take seriously using our tax dollars instead of funding wealthy development. Some of the core issues that I want to bring your attention to is underfunded urban core. We really lack a lot of sustainable concerns for flooding, redirecting resources, and this is financially harmful. There's also financial burdens in maintaining sprawling roads to us, the taxpayers. There's also a big environmental impact, and while I understand that this won't take into effect for many, many years, I don't want to see it. My friends' kids, we don't want to see it. And this needs to be done in a respectful way. I understand that many of these people, many of us might not even be here, but that's not a reason to continue to develop. The other thing is we don't have transit. We don't have responsible and easy transportation, and that hurts a lot. That hurts a lot of people in employment. That hurts a lot in safety. So I urge you to consider that. Like was already stated, I'm a huge proponent of wildlife and creating those spaces. I've lived in Orlando my whole life, for over 32 years. My family's lived here for much longer, and you used to be able to hear the birds. You used to be able to see, wildlife. You used to be able to see the stars. Now all I hear at my house is traffic and planes, and you see people speeding. You see people driving off the roads, running stoplights. It's a lot, and I know you all can't control that, but I ask you, just think forward with us here and give us the chance to plan, give us the chance to collaborate. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Strasser, Tom Nurit, and Miley Tuss Crozer.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Strasser. I live on 3440 North Golden Rod Road in Winter Park, Florida. So today I'm going to talk about our farmers and ranchers in our nation, in this state, and in this county. So currently, right now, in the U.S., this was a study done in 2022, there are 333.3 million people live in the United States. The farmer and rancher population is 3.4 million. That means that the people growing and maintaining our food is 1% of our population. that is struggling to feed the other 99%. If we go down to the state level, Florida has a citizenry of 22.22 or 24 million, and the ranchers are 785,000, making that 3% of the population for farmers. And in Orange County, the population is currently 1.4 million, with there only being 1,100 farmers and ranchers, making that a total of 0.08% of farmers living here. And currently, in our nation, we are losing 40 acres of hour of ranch and farmlands. I know this current, in 2022, from 2017, we lost 220 million ranch and farmlands throughout the entire nation. Now, the reason why this is a big issue is in our modern climate, we can see that the world's getting a little hot with global tension, and we need security in our nation, in our state, and in our communities to be able to even feed ourselves. So I'm here to oppose this, as this annexation will decrease the amount of farm acres in Orange County by 44%, which not only destroys communities, it destroys jobs and livelihoods. So please take into consideration these facts I've presented to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tom Narut, Milius Crozer, Robert Stein.
Thanks so much. I think it was Narush before Ellis Island, and it turned to Narrett. But in any case, 14620 Joe Sayre Drive, Orlando, Florida, 32826. Thank you guys for the opportunity to speak. I think what's interesting is there's probably going to be, maybe 3 of you that are going to be still up behind the podium there in 16 years actually working on this. So it'll be interesting to see what some of you might be working on. So we appreciate your presence here. If you step back and look at this and listen closely, you'll see that it's very much like that NAFTA was to the federal government and the U.S. citizens. You will hear a sucking sound. That is the sound of revenue and resources being pulled from your core mission into another area. In this case, the sprawl that results in the infrastructure responsibility to the city that comes with this significant increase in your geographic jurisdiction that currently has no existing roadways or supporting services in that geography. Combine that with the Florida state policies that restrict on what you can be charging for proportionate shares and the corresponding requirement to give the bulk of that back in impact fee credits, ends up netting the city and its tax-paying residents a significant deficit. Orange County's current roadway deficit of over $20 billion is a proven case in point to what will come. Right, Renzo? Any informed constituent within your current jurisdiction should be in an absolute uproar. Anyone reading your opening paragraph on your own 2050 comprehensive plan can clearly see the mission statement of being compact. Look at the proposed annexation maps and the definition of compact and ask yourself if that is consistent with your mission statement and what you promise to do for your constituents. Please talk about these facts during your deliberation. With those facts in mind and acting in the best interest of your constituents, I ask that you deny the proposed annexation from progressing. On Mayor Dyer's request earlier, guide the growth back to our cities. I've got a small favor to ask each of you. If you're familiar with our Vision 2050 in Orange Code down in Orange County and what it's trying to do for a county-wide rezone for increased density, in my eyes, its intent is literally to pull density out of the city and into the county, which is exactly what you're talking about, Mr. Dyer. And I ask that you guys help us lobby the county to change that county-wide zoning effort that they're trying to put forth and make it more specific to the corridors. But again, for today, please, I ask, there's that sucking sound. Thank you.
Milius Crozier. I was studying that name and I think I got it right now. Is he here? Or she? No. Robert Stein. Richard Baird, Eugene Staccardo.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Robert Stein, 4707 Mesa Verde Drive, St. Cloud, Florida, 34769. I've got comments that I wrote. I'm not a public speaker, so I write things out ahead of time. But Mayor, your opening remarks there, I really took that to heart, and I'm kind of making things up on the fly here a little bit. But annexations, they should be done incrementally, in bite sizes. This whole cloth, application, it doesn't feel right. And I'm taking the civility message to heart here, so I'm not going to accuse them of trying to, subvert the will of the voters or anything like that, because I don't know what's in their heart. But it doesn't feel right. Especially when I hear, you say that this land is going to be zoned agricultural for 40, 50, 60 years. But at the same time, then I'm reading on their websites that their plan is to build 200,000 medium-density homes. So what are we supposed to believe? What are we supposed to do with this? I don't know. I live in Osceola County, but my role in all of this really is my county, kind of against my will, is suing Orange County, and that whole thing that the county attorney brought up in the beginning. I think there needs to be a big pause for that until all of that's settled. But I have friends that live in the city of Orlando, and they should not be put on the hook for the long-term costs of the sprawl. And the citizens of Central Florida in general, we should not be put on the hook for this, what I want to call uncontrolled growth. It's just too much. It's just too much, period. I'm going to ask that you guys put serious thought into putting a moratorium on all of the annexations, at least until the lawsuits between Osceola County and Orange County are settled. And I guess in the end, I would ask that you just deny this application, because I think it's bad for Central Florida. I think it's bad for Orlando. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard Baird, Eugene Staccardo, Barbara Lanning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Rick Baird. I live at 5426 Tribune Drive, Orlando, Florida. I'm here on behalf of Orange Audubon Society and the 2,000 members that live in Orange County and all of the municipalities. We are concerned to see this decision, a decision of this magnitude, being advanced in such haste and with so little evaluation and transparency. As elected representative, it is incumbent upon you to fully vet the risks and opportunities presented by an expansion like this. Yet the supporting documentation for this item provides little data or analysis of the implications of this expansion for the city. Accordingly, we don't understand how you could vote in advance to advance a proposal like this without any evaluation, let alone a robust and thorough one that this proposal warrants. Orange County's wetlands protections are much stronger than the city of Orlando's because they are designed to address large-scale proposals in rural areas with extensive intact wetlands and natural resources. Protections of these wetlands is critical to all of us in Central Florida. Wetlands protect us from flooding after storms, wildfire during drought, and are critical for cleaning water and recharging our aquifers. Central Florida is running out of water, and we all know it is easier and less expensive to protect something up front than to try to restore it later. By annexing this area and governing its build-out with city regulations, the wetland impacts will certainly be greater, and the price of restoration will be borne by all taxpayers. The applicants seem to wish to avoid being subject to the referenda on Orange County ballot this November. The applicants seem to fear new protections that will make it harder for future development on this property without a thorough vetting of the environmental impacts. I'm sure that both city and county residents wish a comprehensive review of this annexation using rules that are most protective of the environment. I urge the city to reject or delay this annexation.
Eugene Staccardo, Barbara Lanning, Kathy Schmitz.
Good afternoon. I guess I'm one of the people who are responsible for all of us being here today. I am a commissioner on the Charter Commission in 2024. I speak on my own. I supported the Sustainability Committee, which was the committee that actually created the language of the rural protection, which ultimately was split in two amendments by the BCC. History on this. We started back in June of 2023 after Dr. Shimrad presented and we made the motion to study this. We studied it. We studied it for a year. We finished up just this May of this year on this. We had 15 meetings. We met with many parties, including county commissioners, such as Lee Constantine from Seminole County and the past commissioner, Randy Morris. Both of them gave us the history of the 2004 motion of the charter amendment that they did in Seminole County. That they went into detail how much has saved their county millions of dollars over the years by trying to keep rural and city and the urban. They had the same issues. Winter Springs came forward quickly afterwards with annexations, just like we're doing right now. Their annexations made sense. There were divots in their property lines between the county. That made real good sense, and that's what the purpose of this whole exercise is, make cities more consistent, more dense. We also met with county staff. We met with city attorneys, Apopka, Winter Garden, Ocoee. We dealt with Horizon West. Read the tortured language of the rural boundary for Orange County. As a lawyer, you would love it because it's really technical and every word counts, describing the rural area of Orange County. Interesting, we had lobbyists from the Deseret group. We had Southern group in most of our meetings, if not all. But interestingly, City of Orlando never came. We addressed all the issues with we didn't have a controversy in the May 20th meeting of this year with anyone with the cities who came, because we dealt with the concerns, the joint planning areas, the Horizons West issues, the Boggy Creek areas. We dealt those issues and we wrote that language into there. The City of Orlando never came. We didn't have anything to address because you all didn't come. We would have sat down and talked. We wanted to talk. It's the most democratic meeting government I have ever been part of. This is my second CRC. It was a wonderful experience. It's democracy in action. And unfortunately, we didn't hear from you. We only heard after this happened. Let me talk about a little bit. I got a few seconds. Oh, no, I don't have enough. But basically, we wanted to increase the communications between the city and the county. And that's what this whole thing, it's not to stop the annexations, but increase the communications. By the way, I'm Eugene Staccardo.
Thank you.
And I live in the Milk District.
Okay, thanks. Barbara Lanning, Kathy Schmitz, and Suzanne Arnold.
Good afternoon. Mayor, thank you for your explanation. It was very interesting. I'm Barbara Lanning. I live at 2517 Harrison Avenue. As an Orlando citizen, I want to express my strong opposition to the voluntary annexation of over 52,000 acres of rural farmland. You will hear from others on the benefits and detriments of this annexation. I want to present a bigger question for your consideration. My concern is what this action will say about democracy and the voice of the people in the process. I do a lot of work with voters in a volunteer capacity. I hear from them that government is only for the rich and powerful, not the little guy. My vote can't make a difference. I believe every voice is powerful. Any action that looks like a rush to short-circuit voters' wishes by proceeding now on annexation before the voters have their say on the county charter questions November 5th only reinforces their fears, and no one wants that. If this must move forward, let's have the voters express their wishes on November 5th. Then we can chart a course forward that equitably serves the interests of our entire community. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy Schmitz. Suzanne Arnold, Daniel Hart.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I'm Reverend Kathy Schmitz. I live at 1500 Mount Vernon Street in Orlando, and I'm speaking to you today as president of the League of Women Voters. The League of Women Voters of Orange County supports the proposed charter amendments that will be before the county's voters on November 5th. This includes critical changes to how we think about annexation. Perhaps more importantly, the League supports the right of the Orange County voters, which includes the Orlando voters, to be heard. The proposed annexation before the Orlando City Council is not timely. At least it's not timely for the people of Orlando or the people of Orange County. It is only timely for those who wish to avoid the will of the people. I urge you to let the people be heard. The League of Women Voters at all levels supports management of land as a finite resource, not a commodity. Land ownership, whether private or public, carries responsibility for stewardship. We are not anti-development. We are in support of land use planning that reflects conservation and wise management of resources. We promote an environment beneficial to life, which requires the protection and wise management of natural resources in the public interest. For this to happen, it is critical that public understanding and participation is part of the decision-making process. These elements are essential for the responsible and responsive management of our natural resources. It's not necessary to get defensive. It is necessary to work toward meaningful collaboration, and we can do that. We all need to understand the environmental, social, and economic impacts of actions such as the proposed annexation. I submit that we do not. The impact statements attached to the ordinance reflect at best a willful ignorance of the impact this annexation will have on life in Central Florida. Increasing the city's landmass by 2/3 and setting it up to double in population will have an impact, a significant impact. Government at all levels needs to concern itself with resource conservation, stewardship, and long-range planning. We need time. Orlando, Orange County, and Central Florida have a stunning opportunity. We have the chance to demonstrate what truly collaborative, responsible, and sustainable development looks like. We urge you to slow this train down. There is no hurry. We can do better, and we must. Thank you.
Thank you. Suzanne Arnold, Daniel Hart, Gordon Spears.
Thank you, Mayor Dyer and County Commissioners. My name is Suzanne Arnold. I live at 13306 South Lake Mary Jane Road. I am the Communications Chairperson for the Lake Mary Jane Alliance. On behalf of the Alliance, we ask you not to annex the 52,000 acres in East Orlando. The Lake Mary Jane Alliance started back in 2005 as a grassroots organization to help preserve rural lands. Our rural settlement has over 600 homeowners just west of Sunbridge, so we are down in this area where it's all happening. We have spoken at hundreds and hundreds of county meetings over the past 19 years, but today marks the first time at a city meeting. It's important to mention that the Lake Mary Jane Alliance worked with Tavistock and Deseret on the Sunbridge plans for almost 8 years before they were fully approved. Before we started talking, though, the number one thing that we requested was that there was no development east of Turkey Creek. The previous two developers were trying to go all the way to the Econ and eventually cross the Econ. So this is something that our residents, I think you all received probably at least 50 emails or something from our residents. They are not happy with the thought of this massive annexation without discussion, without planning, without any information within several weeks after this came before us. So this spring, the Alliance did not object to the Sunbridge annexation because the city agreed to adopt all current development plans, including the Environmental Land Stewardship Program and our agreement on existing roads. However, we are frustrated that this current annexation has potential to violate one of those key original agreements not to develop east of Turkey Creek to help buffer the econ. We strongly encourage the city to pause or reject in this rushed annexation and use real smart growth and redevelopment in your own areas instead. But if you do approve this, then the Lake Mary Jane Alliance asks that the city will agree to create a working group with stakeholders. In fact, many of the stakeholders are right in this room here today, that could select a representative and an alternate that would be willing to help work on an agreement, including both development and protections for this critical portion of the Florida Wildlife Corridor. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel Hart, Gordon Spears, Amir Roy.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Daniel Hart, 13105 Fernway Road, 32832. I'm a board member of the Lake Mary Jane Alliance. When our communities were built back in the 50s, we were far from the city, and that's what we wanted. We are generational families still living in these communities. When the Lake Mary Jane Alliance started in 2005, the city of Orlando was just over 43,000 acres. So much has changed in the Moss Park and Lake Nona area. Most rural settlements throughout Orange County still have well water and septic tanks. All of our homes, 100% dependent on private wells. Did you know that there are wells not only in the Sunbridge that just got annexed, but there's wells in this current proposal that supply the city of Cocoa with their water? So we're supplying the city of Cocoa with their water, and we're on wells. We can't supply another city of Orlando with our water. There are multiple high volume wells, and the drawdowns with additional intense development would be significant. Like all rural settlement residents, we are very concerned as we have no alternatives for water if our wells run dry. Also, runoff. We know that we are experiencing floods like we've never experienced before. And the city building, a lot of that runoff goes off into our local lakes and canals. Lake Nona, a lot of that, Shingle Creek, goes off into Lake Mary Jane, Lake Hart, East Lake Toho, West Lake, and all the way down to Lake Okeechobee. Then Lake Okeechobee's in such bad shape, they have to release their water both to the east and west coast. So the environmental impacts are not just here, they're all over the place. If this were to take place, where's the runoff going to go? Into the econ? Where's the econ go? Into the St. Johns? We know how bad that floods. There is a lot of planning that needs to be done here, and we just ask that you pause this so we can think about these things. The Alliance acknowledges that there will be future growth, but this seems like an unnecessary land grab without any kind of infrastructure in place. We all understand that the county amendments are driving this rush to annexation, but the county was listening to the residents. And we hope you will listen to the residents today and reject this massive and premature annexation, or at least find a way for the stakeholders to be involved in the careful planning of environmentally critical lands. Thank you.
Thank you. Gordon Spears, Amir Roy, Jessica Namath.
Good afternoon. My name is Gordon Spears. I live at 1626 Baltimore Avenue in Orlando, Florida. I'm an Orlando City resident, but Orlando absolutely has to grow. We absolutely have to provide more housing, particularly affordable housing. But this is absolutely the wrong place to do it. East Orange County is very, it doesn't have a lot of fresh water. Now, I've heard a lot about aquifer recharge. There is not a lot of aquifer recharge happening in East Orange County east of the Econ River. It's a different kind of geology than West Orange County. The great majority of the aquifer recharges in West Orange County. There's very little aquifer recharge in East Orange County. In fact, as you probably know, there's a community in East Orange County that's already run out of water, and their private utility can't supply water to their community any further. That's Wedgwood. As you probably also know, the city of Cocoa Beach has had a number of well fields in East Orange County because they ran out of fresh water. The first several well fields that they put in near Wedgefield have also run out of fresh water. Those wells now suck salt water and they can't use them anymore. That's why the city of Cocoa Beach has bought more property for well fields further into Orange County, further away from Cocoa. And those are near Lake Hart, Lake Mary Jane. You probably know where they are. There is simply not enough fresh water in East Orange County to support a community the size that you're contemplating, including in the city of Orlando. And that means that providing them with fresh water is going to be a burden, a financial burden on those of us in the city of Orlando that made wise choices about living in a sustainable area that does have fresh water. These issues are not getting less severe. They're getting more severe with climate change. I believe that in a few years, East Orange County is going to be supporting salt marshes. The ocean is coming up. There is not enough fresh water in East Orange County to support the kind of growth that annexation would promote. And I urge you to vote no on annexation. Thank you.
Thank you. Amir Roy, Jessica Namath, Sunshine Grund.
Hi, I'm Ema Roy, and I live at 2337 Albion Avenue, Orlando, Wedgefield. My home is 1 mile from the 520, which is the other side of which will be this development. At the Boundary Commission meeting, I spoke of my concern over the cattle land beside us. I'm an Irish immigrant, as you can hear, and I'm a citizen. And 3 things that Irish people recognise: shenanigans, the rebound to circumvent the November the 5th boundary and annexation vote is to stop the will of the people to vote. Secondly, land grab. Irish people understand land grab after 700 years. Thirdly, tone policing is always the tool of oppression. Building in rural areas of beauty is cheap. The impact, though, to climate and real people: when we were flooded by Hurricane Ian, we had water up to our back door and water up to our front door, and we had boats on both sides. We had boats on our streets. It took months. That's Wedgefield now. So we can't do this now. We can't exist with any of the infrastructure that the city has right now. And there has been no rush to sort out Wedgefield. You know, it's happening at the speed of snail. Rural development is, at the moment also with our Pleuris water, the county is refusing to have OUC buy out Pleuris. So that's a burden that in current rural lands in Wedgefield, the city and county are refusing to have OUC buy the water. They want us to fund that ourselves because we're not broke enough already from our insurance rates and our utilities and taking showers in scalding water. And undrinkable water, by the way, at $250 a month for a family of 4. This is too much for young families. There already is not the infrastructure there for older people, for people with disabilities. There has been no rush to help us. Rural health facilities and hospitals are being closed down right now. There's no infrastructure exists, and we're too far from the urban centre for work and opportunities. I asked this council to vote no and direct developers inward to the urban corridor. If they need money, incentivise them. Civilly, I say discouraging citizens from free speech is unconstitutional and not a good look, and students are citizens too. In fact, they are often our conscience. Show us that conscience matters more than civility with a no vote.
Thank you. Okay, Jessica Namath's Zoom, Madam Clerk. Is Jessica on?
She is on Zoom.
There? Okay, with her hand raised. Jessica,
Hello.
you're on.
Okay, hi, my name is Jessica Namath. I'm at 20 Shady Lane in Tequesta, Florida, actually. So good afternoon, council members, commissioners, mayor. I'm speaking to you from Tequesta, as I said, and although I spent the past 2 days in Orlando, I regret not being with you all in person today. More regrettable, however, is the large-scale desecration all levels of Florida government seem to be willing to commit against Wild Florida at the expense of the environment and against the will of the people, your taxpayers. The village I live in borders Jonathan Dickinson State Park, and much like you're considering an annexation today in a seemingly rushed manner that only favors the developer, our governor attempted to do the same thing to our state park, many state parks, in fact, and state forest. I started a Facebook group that had 45,000 members in its first week and is currently just shy of 50,000. And all of us are engaged in these statewide issues that continue to be brought to light and disappoint us. And you'd have to almost be living under a rock to not have heard the resounding will of the people, which was and is, do not develop Wild Florida. Not only do we not have to accommodate everyone that wants to live here, your taxpayers and voters do not want you to. The implications of allowing this annexation will have a negative impact on our entire state, thus making this a statewide issue. We are currently the third most populated state in this country, yet the 26th in size by square miles. So for those of us in the southern part of the state, the thought of Central Florida making it any more difficult than it already is to evacuate the state in a time of crisis is nothing short of terrifying. It's already taken those of us in my area upwards of 17 hours to evacuate to safety, and I can't even fathom what 2 new Orlandos, as you put it, would do to endanger my family in the future. Furthermore, I would be interested to know if the population projections are taking into account climate change and increased storm severity, severe flooding due to overdevelopment, sky-high insurance rates, coastal erosion, and general lack of funding or concern for these increased emergency services or public transportation or general infrastructure maintenance. Our government seems to be destroying everything that is enticing people to move here in the first place. But more importantly, please show our children that are multi-generational Floridians that you care about them and the Florida they will inherit from us more than you care about creating homes for people that don't even live in our state. I ask that you simply deny this voluntary annexation and instead listen to the voters and respect their wishes. Thank you.
Okay, Sunshine Grund, Hal Coates, and I am told that Mr. Crozier has now arrived, so we'll put him in after that.
Hi, commissioners and friends. My name is Sunshine Linda Marie Grund, and my address is 8577 Bradley's Landing Street, Orlando, Florida, 32827. I live in District 1 with my husband of 19 years and our 4 children. Also a business owner, community volunteer, and speaking of volunteer work, your candidate for the next supervisor of elections. Shameless plug. I'm saying that because the info I'm going to focus on is voting, the importance of your vote. No, the annexation is going to be decided by you, our trusted elected officials. You are the minority representing the majority who voted for your representation. It's a privilege because the majority of us are busy making our communities so strong, whether that's working hard, enjoying retirement, studying for our future, and everything in between. We are trusting you with every decision, especially this one, with hopes that is made with the best interest of all of us, especially those who voted for you. Special thanks to my elected representatives, my commissioner, Jim Gray, and my mayor, Buddy Dyer. Hopefully you all know the ins and outs of this annexation and intentions for our future. Know you shared more info today, Mayor Dyer, thank you. My hope is that all the impacts of this vote are being considered by all of you. You continuously are expected to vote for the best interest of those you represent, the residents of the city of Orlando. Please remember the saying that people speak with their feet, or shall I say vote. As I open sharing about me, your decisions represent so many who focus on the decision of where to live based on the quality of life. I love Orlando. It's where I have called home for decades, moved here to go to college, go Knights, another shameless plug, met my husband in college, and where we are raising our family. My hope is that people continue to call Orlando home. Is this annexation scalable with current projected resources? Again, you are our trusted representatives. My hope that it is safe, smart, and sustainable. Know some of you have heard me say that before. Hope you all also know I wish nothing but the best for your representation, as when you win, we all win. We need you to write well for our future. May favor be upon you for our children and our children's children with votes today and in the future. May all your decisions you make represent us well for this generation and future generations who call Orlando home. I'll let you decide what a yes or no means for our future. I will yield my remaining time.
Thank you. Hal Coates, and then Miletus Crozier and Asia Moore.
My name is Hal Coates. I live at 2144 Christmas Road. I'm a Navy veteran. I spent 27 years in the Navy. I went to Colonial High School. When I graduated, I joined the Navy. And after I retired, I came back to Orlando, Orange County. And my folks came here in 1965. We bought a piece of property on the east side in rural Orange County. And a lot of things have happened over the years. I've been retired for 23 years now, but I'm a combat veteran. I put my life on the line for 27 and a half years. And a lot of things have happened in Orange County and Orlando, and you guys have one difficult job trying to manage the growth. But the bottom line is, it's not working out that well. There's never been a housing project, never been a road that hadn't cost the county or the city money. So these big land developers come in and they build it, but they leave us with an empty purse. So you raise the taxes, and they're always asking for more money. Now, there's going to be a vote in November, and I would like to be able to vote for it, and everybody in Orlando, which is part of Orange County, to cast a vote to see what we want to do. The Mormon Ranch, Desiree Ranch, the folks involved with Lake Nona, they have an agenda. They're out to make money. They buy a piece of property that's zoned for one house on 10, 50 acres, and then they want to change it. Now, if I put together a group of venture capitalists and bought property near your home and said, hey, we want to make pig farms, you would come undone. I mean, you're like changing things in the middle of the road. This is the way they're supposed to be. You guys, the government, the county, the city, cater to these folks, and you do damage and you harm us. You hurt our lives. There's not enough water. The flooding is astronomical. East Orange County, everywhere it floods. If they pour concrete, cover up the aquifer, it's just going to get worse. And it's let the people vote. I spent 27 years protecting this country, being a representative of Orange County. I want to vote. Trust the people. The people get it right. The mayor, the commissioners, you guys do a good job, but you're not getting it right. You need to listen to the people. Let us vote. We're not out to make money. We're out to enhance our quality of life. If they put 2 Orlandos south of the B line, it's just going to destroy the environment. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Coates, thank you for your service. Miletus Crozier, Asia Moore, Lana Sellers.
Good afternoon, Board. My name is Miletus Crozier. I am a native Floridian. As a native Floridian, it is our duty to protect the land. So upon hearing that the CJCLDS Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints filed the annexation petition on August 23, 2024 for the annexation of a 52,450 acre parcel of land. This is only 17.77% of their vast 295,000 acre property that is known as Desiree Ranches, which was established in 1949. After annexation is approved, this would still leave the CJCLDS having over 242,550 acres of land available to annex for private donations, which would then give them a tax write-off, which cost us, the county, money. Now, to give you some perspective here in case you are unaware, Walt Disney World owns 27,520 acres that we all know. Everybody knows how big Disney is. As big as the property is, they have only developed 52% of the available land that they actually own. The rest of that land is a conservation effort. Now, if Desiree Ranch's true effort was to actually conserve the land, they would not be doing this in the first place. Sorry, I apologize. I'm a little nervous. It's my first time. Unfortunately, despite this proposed annexation, Desiree Ranch's supposed mission statement is, and I quote from their direct website, "Our environmental ethic revolves around principled stewardship of wildlife, wetlands, and water resources. Throughout our existence, we have consistently done what is right to manage and protect these three important components of the environment." Not only does all of Desiree Ranches play a big role in the conservation efforts for the land, but also the animals and plants that call it home, which is over 44,000 beef cattle, 1,300 bulls, alligators, wading birds, wood ducks, residence spoonbills, cattle egrets, sandhill cranes, kestrels, bald eagles, snail kites, deer, wood storks, one of the biggest actual private rookeries for wood storks in the entirety of the state as well. Snapping turtles, moccasin bass, I can go on. The point being is there is over 600 native species of animals that live on Desiree Ranches alone. This is not including the 250 additional species of bird and other wildlife as well. There's also 1,600 acres that is dedicated to a citrus grove with 200,000 trees, including navel, sunburst, tangerine, Orlando tangelos, and etc. type of citrus. And as we know, Orlando and Florida in general has been losing a robust amount of citrus throughout the years. I myself have lived in several major cities throughout the entirety of the state, despite being 26. I have lived in Kendall, Brickell, Orlando, Jacksonville, St. Augustine, Plant City, Oviedo, Apopka, Mount Dora, Tavares. I have seen how beautiful the state is. I've seen how many orange groves we have, and it is heartbreaking to see how much of my home state is being destroyed for a cheap, quick buck, especially Airbnb. One moment. It is unfortunate that Orlando has so much Airbnb, but yet all this housing development, there is 37% vacant in Key West, 39% Airbnb is vacant in Orlando, and 44% staggeringly is empty in Miami. Why are we going to expand Desiree County for annexation when we could easily go after Airbnb for all these vacant homes, which would help the state and help my people?
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Okay, Asia Moore is by Zoom, Madam Clerk.
Oh, I think that worked.
You're there, Miss Moore?
Okay, it was still loading on my side. I apologize. Asia Moore, 3343 Black Oak Trail, Brooksville, Florida. I am coming to you guys today to tell you guys not to annex this. As somebody who lives in a county in the unincorporated portion of a city, I've watched Brooksville and Hernando County concrete us in from both sides, and we're losing our agricultural land at a staggering rate. We don't even have the fairgrounds to house our kids for FFA anymore, and I just can't imagine why Florida wants to continue to cover their permeable surfaces with more development. As the speaker before me brought up, is the impact of Airbnb. I went ahead and did some research in your guys' numbers in Orlando versus Orange County. In Orlando, you guys have a problem. You guys have a huge problem. The city itself has a massive amount of Airbnbs, and your booking return rate is sitting below a 37% right now. As someone with 9 years of vacation rental industry experience here in the state of Florida, I can tell you that majority of our houses are being bought up by investors who are wanting to make a possibly retire later down the road. It's not happening. As urban sprawl is designated between suburban sprawl. It seems like what Orange County has planned for this property and that the developer and landowner does not want to do is exactly what Florida does need to do, and that is keep it to 1 dwelling per 10 acres to accommodate for our wetlands and the environmental impact. In the opening statement, Mr. Mayor, I heard you make quite a few statements, and I wrote down notes, and I don't want to touch on them directly because your comments were quite concerning to me, but it does seem to me like you have a bigger duty to do your constituents' duty of heading to the county and letting them know that you have a problem with the way things are going versus telling constituents, taxpayers, and just concerned Florida citizens that you guys are going to do things differently. That doesn't sit right. We need to be a cohesive unit, and if a city within a county within a state isn't agreeing, then we need to make sure that we get on a better page. So I encourage you to sit down with the county and find a way to work together, but stop trying to develop any part of Florida. And you're doing a 2040 plan for building. Our water for Hernando County is only mapped to last out till 2045. So where is Orlando even thinking that they could do this in 2040? When most of the state will be out of water by then at the current rate that we're developing. You guys need to put a halt on this. Sounds like you got your hands tied with some legislative issues and also possible lawsuits for the last one. I definitely think jumping the gun and trying to cut out what voters want is not the way to go. Thank you.
Lana Sellers, Deborah Green, Eric Grimmer. Okay, thank you. Lana Sellers. Lana, are you here? Anybody know Lana? Nope. Eric Grimmer, Kristen Stevens, Scott Randolph.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Eric Grimmer, and I was a member of the 2024 Orange County Charter Review Commission and the chair of the Sustainable Growth Committee. However, I'm speaking on my own behalf today. I'm also chapter lead for Orlando YIMBY, which stands for Yes in My Backyard. In our quest for housing abundance that eases our affordability crisis, YIMBY supports growth that is sustainable from both an environmental and fiscal perspective. In his comments today, the mayor said that the city had to make this annexation decision on a compressed time frame to protect the best interests of taxpayers and residents. For which taxpayers and residents is it in their best interest for the municipal government to annex over 50,000 acres of land in East Orange County and make their city 2/3 bigger? Is it for the residents whose local streets are flooding during everyday rainstorms, which may have been exacerbated by a city road project? Is it for the local businesses struggling to survive when the revenue plummets due to road construction, requiring them to hold a fundraiser in order to survive? Is it for the continually increasing homeless population who desperately need more shelters and affordable housing so they can get back on their feet? So I ask again, whose best interests are served by these annexations? I love and believe in local government. I want it to succeed to enrich the lives of its citizens and help the local economy flourish. But for local government to succeed, there needs to be trust and confidence. Government at all levels has suffered from a lack of trust and confidence, especially in these last few years. This is one of those decisions that can undermine, erode, and destroy any faith that a resident might have in his local government to provide a better way of life for them and their family. I know municipal balance sheets are strained, and it is difficult to provide residents with all the essential services they need in order to go about their daily lives. With that in mind, I don't know why you would want to make it any harder on yourself or them by taking on an additional 50,000 acres of future suburban sprawl that will not pay for itself. Your focus needs to be on your current residents and their very real needs that they have in the right now. This annexation will put a burden on you and your staff. It will not only drain your pocketbook, it will divert your attention. Don't worry, it sounds like you will still have plenty of future residents moving into the city of Orlando. I know this council has approved a ton of new housing in the downtown core this past few years, which is exactly what the city should be doing. We need to bring more people to downtown Orlando. More housing units will make it more affordable for existing and future residents. It will help local businesses to succeed by providing an even larger customer base. It will bring in new businesses and jobs. It will make our existing public transit more useful to more people and lay the groundwork for future expansion if we can ever get that pesky transportation sales tax passed. From a smart growth perspective, I've been impressed with the decision of this council in the past few years. However, these annexations undermine the council's own worthwhile efforts to improve and enhance its downtown core. I say this not to criticize, but because I empathize. These are extremely difficult and often expensive problems to address, which is why it's so critical to remain focused and direct your limited resources to helping the city of Orlando in its current geographic form. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristen Stevens on Zoom. Ms. Stevens?
Yes, thank you. I'm joining today from 2659 Hibbard Trail. I was born here in Orlando and have lived almost 40 years of my life in Orlando and Orange County. And a lot of what has been brought today really speaks to my heart. You know, I grew up, went home from the hospital to Winter Garden, Florida, and watched the sprawl destroy West, Orange County, and the infrastructure problems that, continue to plague that area. And have just seen, our wild Florida disappearing year by year. There are over 440 species listed as endangered in Florida. And, this type of rushed annexation and development and the poor planning that, is a potential result really is a concern. When we take into account our limited resources, obviously we're not just talking about resources for the citizens of Central Florida, but also for the wild, wild and nature as well. And, the potential impact to the environment in terms of, of the conservation areas and also just, runoff and other things, it's really disturbing to think about. I would urge, the council to take this into consideration, and there is no rush. As stated, I think we should leave this up to the voters. If this is a true democracy, then the vote will have its place, and let the residents speak. Let the residents vote. Please vote no on this annexation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Scott Randolph, Susanna Randolph.
Thank you, Council. Hi, Scott Randolph, 701 Delaney Park Drive. I've been a resident of the city of Orlando for 20 years, and I think this is the first time I've ever come to address you, because I trust you. I trust you guys. They say that local government is the closest to the people, and city government truly is the closest that you can get to the people. And people like you, every single one of you all do a great job. And you can see that in the elections. By the way, you don't see that in the other elections, right? They turn and they churn. But people like you because you do a great job, because they know you, because they know they can get you on the phone. I know I can get my commissioner on the phone. And it's not because I'm another elected official. It's because she knows what's going on in her neighborhoods. She knows each one of her neighborhoods. All of you all know each one of your neighborhoods. I don't know about this development, but I know you're about to change the dynamic of the city of Orlando if you think about it. Orange County is about to probably add 3 commission seats because of the growth. It may not happen for 10 years, but you're about to change the true dynamic of this city. When that population starts to explode out there, 30 miles from here, a distance as far away as Sanford from where we're standing at right now, when that population starts to explode, ask yourself, this dais is either going to double in size, or your districts are going to double in size. We may not even have one majority African American district when that happens. Districts 2, 3, and 4, you'll probably be one district. All that population is suddenly going to center 30 miles from where we stand today as the city of Orlando. And I don't know and I don't believe that's what your residents want to see. I think they love this beautiful city for what it is now, which is this compact area. And the only second point I would make is that what was missing out of that presentation was, how are we going to pay for this? Development, as we know, doesn't pay for itself up front. Sure, there's at some point where you break even, but I think the residents of Orlando deserve to know how this is going to be paid for. I urge that you don't annex this unless there's an agreement for a CDD, a community development district, where there's a special taxing district that we know, that the residents get to know and have that surety that the infrastructure costs aren't coming from projects that their areas deserve. The infrastructure and the stormwater projects that we need, that you need in your district to stop the flooding. And the residents should deserve to get to know that that's not going to come out of their pocketbook, that developer is going to be paying for their infrastructure costs down the road and in that area and not out of their own districts. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. And in the role of cleanup batter, Susanna Randolph.
You guys get a double header today of the Randolphs. This is like a banner day here. So
Can't get too many Randolphs.
My name is Susanna Randolph, as you all know. I'm actually here as the chapter director of the Florida Sierra Club. I also live at 701 Delaney Park Drive in Orlando, Florida, and am a proud Orlando city resident and have been for a very long time. On behalf of our 38,000 members and over 135,000 supporters in Florida, I urge you to oppose the annexation of the 52,000 acres at Deseret Ranch. Our members and supporters have grave concerns about the impact on our ecosystem, our wildlife, and our wildlife corridor, and the exacerbation of climate change that is caused by overdevelopment throughout Florida. Our members and supporters are also concerned with the way that this has arrived in front of you. This is a huge decision with sweeping impacts, but has come with very few details and very little time. If this is such a good idea, then why not take the time to share with the public the details of this plan? I'm sure that many of you saw recently the outpouring of support for our state parks, a massive mobilization that took even our heavy-handed governor by surprise. Floridians love their natural environment and will show up strong to protect it. What Floridians don't like? Traffic jams, toll roads, flooding, and extreme heat. All of those things come with more development where it just shouldn't be. Mayor Dyer, you and the City Commission back in 2017 passed a unanimous resolution for 100% clean energy for Orlando, a day that many of us who are here today celebrated with you. That was a wonderful day that saw your leadership on display. We need that leadership again, here and now, to ensure the city can keep that commitment to a cleaner, more sustainable future that contributes solutions to the increasing crisis that is climate change. Please vote no on this annexation today.
Okay, that is all the speakers that we have. I can't remember, did we make a motion at the beginning or not? Okay, so, all right. Discussion then. Anybody?
Mayor, go ahead. Mayor, I was going to say, you may want to reread something or refresh people's memories.
Commissioner, can you speak into the microphone?
I think they've got that for now, and I'll come back at the end after I hear from commissioners. Commissioner Burns, Commissioner Sheehan.
Yes, Mayor. Do we have opportunity for the owners to address some questions? Because several of the questions that I have are directed to the...
Sure, they are here.
Yeah, so one of the things that's mentioned, Mayor, you mentioned the county, the preemption, and and I don't appreciate the preemption, but when we talk about the infrastructure needs and the infrastructure that will be needed for this type of development, I wonder, has there been any discussion about the infrastructure needs for this development to be taken on by the developers and not just solely on the city of Orlando? Because right now I know in my district we have a lot of infrastructure needs. We have piping that needs to be redone. We have a lot of things that we need to invest in our current city residents. So I'd like to know if there's been any agreement along the lines of the infrastructure. And also, with the full development plan, what percentage of the 52,000 acres will remain environmentally protected?
Yeah, good questions, Commissioner Burns. My name is Gary Hunter. I'm with the Holtzman Vogel Law Firm out of Tallahassee. The short answer to your question is there's no answer to your question because we're not asking for anything other than to be part of the city rather than part of the county. So there's no development plan whatsoever proposed with anything that's being asked of the commission today, none whatsoever. We're happy to work with your staff and do a development plan, hopefully similar to what was done down in Osceola County, which, by the way, I think you heard some rough numbers, 133,000 acres, roughly 70,000 acres of that project is undeveloped, forever, permanent preservation, untouched land. So ultimately, will it be exactly that? I mean, probably not exactly that because we got to work with the city staff and with ourselves and hopefully with members of this audience who are concerned with what's being proposed and come up with a plan that works for everyone. What we don't want is segmented 2,000 acre, 3,000 acre, 4,000 acre projects that result in that entire parcel getting developed over the next 50 years or 100 years or 150 years, whatever the time frame is. We would rather have a holistic view, just like we've had in Osceola County, of the entire property. Basically, remember, there's about 10,000 acres further to the east that's not part of this annexation. So of the 52,000 acres, we want to have a holistic view of the entire project with your staff and with this public and with ourselves sitting down saying what's the best way to develop this over time with the condition, by the way, that we're happy with, that nothing happens on the property for at least 15 years. And perhaps longer than that if we don't have a plan in place. So I'm not avoiding your question.
Commissioner, the short answer is this council will be totally in charge of what happens in terms of development and how it's developed in agreement. They'll bring ideas forth and we can, I mean, maybe we end up at the one house per 10 acres for the next 100 years. Probably not, but that could happen, but it'll be totally at the decision-making of this city council.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Mayor. One of the things, and I know I'm one of the newer commissioners on the commission, you know, I was wondering for a development of that size or any development that we have, how is the infrastructure paid for? You know, if I can be educated on the infrastructure that makes the development happen and everything, how is that normally?
Usually the developer pays for the infrastructure in a subdivision. We probably do the roads leading up to it in some fashion, but there could be special district, there could be a CDD. Those have been done, something like even Reedy Creek was, something like Universal used for their development, that the money was used there. So any number of ways.
Okay, thank you.
But we will safeguard to make sure that the current residents of Orlando do not
Don't
subsidize the future residents.
And I think that's my main question, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Sheehan?
Well, first of all, I want to thank everyone for coming today and expressing your concerns. I think it's good when people come and they express what's in their heart and what they feel is important. This is a large parcel of land with a regional impact. 52,000 acres is a big deal. So, but that's why Osceola County worked with Deseret on a sector plan. Planning, coordination, these are all crucial to address connectivity, wildlife corridors, sustainability, wetlands, all these issues that are important to environmentalists. And what has Orange County done last decade? Nothing. That's the problem that I have with this situation, is that they've not got nothing. So why do parcels want to annex to the city of Orlando? Some will say we're more permissive, and most of the people here today think that we're more permissive, and this is why the developer wants to annex the city of Orlando. But if you ask to some folks, other business community, they will say because we have a permitting process and planning process that works. Now, if you take the big developer out of the process, take them out of the equation. I work with a not-for-profit that's very near and dear to my heart. It's the Pet Alliance. They have right now, they're 6 months delayed in permitting. This is a very good group that does very good work in this community. They cannot get their shelter open because they can't get anything done with Orange County permitting. It's very frustrating when you're working with a group that you honestly believe in and you can't get Orange County to react at all. So they should be able to get their doors open. The end is not in sight. Again, I say Orange County, please. Now, we had some issues here at the city, honestly. We had some problems with permitting. Commissioner Gray shaking his head, yep. And you know what we did? We fixed them. So I'm saying to Orange County is, you know, if you don't want us to fix your problems, you need to fix your problems, and it's ridiculous that people are having to wait this long on permits. No one should be trapped and forced to deal with a dysfunctional or non-functional government process. It's just not fair. All right? Now, the other hand, though, is I don't believe annexing this parcel is good for the city. I also understand the property owner's frustration with a lack of professional or cohesive process from the county. So it's a very difficult situation to be put in. If Orange County wanted this to remain agricultural, they should purchase the property like we did with Constitution Green. Many ranchers have worked with the state of Florida for such purchases. There are other opportunities, but they haven't done any of that. I am only voting no because I don't believe it is Orlando's responsibility to clean up someone else's mess. I don't believe it's Orlando's responsibility to clean up Orange County's mess. But I'm also going to say to my county folks, you need to clean up your mess. And I see that Commissioner Wilson left. I wish she was here to listen and clean up your own mess. All right? You need to be a responsive government to this property owner. Either work with them or figure out how to compensate them for their land. You can't have it both ways. And I'm a person who believes in environment and believes in sustainability, but 1 house per 10 acres is not a sustainable way to develop. Face it, it's just not. You might like living on, on an enclave and things like that, but it's just not a good way to develop. Now, Desiree Ranch has committed to be responsible stewards of this property, and I believe them because I have worked with ranchers. I worked for the Florida Department of Agriculture prior to coming here, and I've seen ranchers, and people talk about farmers with their mouths full. Ranchers are responsible people who believe in this in the environment and believe in the stewardship. All right? They're being treated extremely unfairly by Orange County. You can't solve problems or challenges by ignoring them. I'm only voting no because I don't think it's Orlando's responsibility to fix Orange County's mess, but I would say to you as Orange County residents, you need to hold Orange County accountable because they have created this mess. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Gray?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Commissioner Sheehan, for those comments. Look, I want to weigh in. It'll be in my district in SIF Annex, so I think it's only appropriate I share with you folks kind of how I see this, and I'll try to be brief. We've been here for quite a while today. But, I've heard the concerns. We've all heard them, and a lot of them are valid in all the different areas. They're valid. They need to be dealt with, and I think the assurance I would give you, I think the mayor's giving you and this council would give you, is that those will all be very public. Again, there's no approvals in place. As they come in with a plan that staff evaluates and applies that to our policies, our procedures, our code, there'll be public hearings, and so we'll get to weigh in on those throughout the process. But as I looked at this, I kind of reflected back, and some of you don't know, I've lived in Lake Nona for 22 years, in Orlando for 35, and my claim to fame is when I moved to Lake Nona, Narcoossee Road from the beach line down was 2 lanes. And so I've seen the growth, at least in the city, not quite as much as you've seen in the rural district, but from the city perspective I've had. And so I kind of looked back and said, let's look at Lake Nona. Lake Nona is about 10,000 acres, 17 square miles, so it's about 20% the size of this annexation. And Lake Nona annexed in 30 years ago, and we're still not finished building out Lake Nona. This is a multi-generational project to develop 52 acres. And if anybody looks you in the eye and says they can plan it on the front end, they're lying to you, because my experience in Lake Nona is you do the best you can planning, but you're going to have to make adjustments because things change over time. The economy changes, people's desires change, the market changes, and you got to meet the market or you're not going to sell your product. So I know things need to be changed, but let's look at Lake Nona. Right? in that time period. But Lake Nona has grown to become one of the top 25 communities, master plan communities, in the entire country. And that's not my saying. It's what people want. It's that combination of live, work, play. And the thing that makes Lake Nona a bit different than most, yes, we have residential, yes, we have, etc. But the thing that makes Lake Nona different, we've got jobs, and they're good paying jobs. And that's key to reduce some of the traffic flow and all the things. Sprawl is a bad thing. We all agree with that. You buy your house, then you jump in the car. In Lake Nona, there's a lot of people that drive 5 minutes to their work. And the reason it's important is they can get home without the traffic and help coach or get involved in the you've got the creation of jobs in there. And I guess my point is, over 30 years, there was a lot of work to be done with Lake Nona. And when you look at the, I looked at, used the new AI, and here's some of the things. It says, not surprisingly, the opposition came primarily from Orange County, but I think Commissioner Sheehan said it best. In my experience, I've had dozens of people that have annexed into the city from the county, 5, 10-acre pieces, and they annex not because they want to pay more taxes, because they're going to pay more taxes when they come to the city. The reason they do is because they feel like they've got a better partner in the city than they do with the county. And like Commissioner Sheehan said, I'm sorry for that, but I can't control that, right? And so the county's got some work to do. They know it. We're not perfect, but they've got some work to do. And so I think the key for me, why I support this, is number one, the fundamental reason is property rights, and the mayor said it. If you own a piece of property, you have a large say in what you get to do with that property. And all those people that have come and annexed in over the 12 years I've been here, I've said to them one thing: are you prepared to live with our policies and our procedures and our rules? And they all tell me yes. And I say, great, because if you don't, I'm going to call you. And if we don't, as a city, I hope you call me. But it's a partnership. And why? Because it doesn't matter whether you're an employer, a resident, or a small business owner. Whatever your endeavor, you want it to be profitable and you want it to grow and create opportunities. And so that's the role I think we do in the public sector, is to be a partner with whomever it might be. And the second reason I support this, other than property rights, and they have the right to do what they want if they're going to follow our rules, is because they're a strong development partner. I've seen it with Tavistock. Again, you can't plan everything, but when you run into a problem, you've got to have a partner, a sponsor of that land, who's got the wherewithal and the ability to hire the right professional service firms and to spend the money to do it, whether that's infrastructure drainage, whether that's paving, whatever that might be. You got to have the ability to do that. And I'll give you the last case and I'll shut up. I'm going too long, forgive me. One of the things I recognized when we first got into Lake Nona, it started growing. A lot of young families, made sense. Jobs, new schools, it was attractive. We had no public parks to speak of. And so I went to the development community, the building community, the builders association, the apartment association, said, guys, you're probably going to be surprised to hear this, but I'm going to suggest that we impose an impact fee so that we can build some parks. And to each one of them, they said, you know what? Because we are creating a need for public parks. We've got young families coming in. And today we have 2 regional parks, with 3 more coming out in 7 years. So it's holding people accountable, each way. We hold the development community accountable, they hold us accountable, but you got to have a good partner and a good sponsor. And that's what I've seen in Tavistock. They have the ability to fix problems. They don't run from problems. Why? Because they got a big investment and they're not going to make it until the last 20%. Whatever money they make, they're redeploying it back in, and so therefore they're not doing substandard development, because if it craters now, they lose. And I have a sense, I don't know the economics of the Mormon Church, but I suspect they're the same way. They need to do it right because it's a long-term project, and if they goof it up front end, nobody wants to move to Desiree Ranch. So for those two reasons, strong sponsorship and the fact that it's their property, if they're willing to follow our rules and regs, I don't see why the government should step in and tell them they can't. And that's what the charter amendment does, in my opinion. So I'm all for this, Mayor. Thank you for letting me share my thoughts.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Stewart, then Commissioner Rose.
Thank you, Mayor. And let me echo a couple comments from everybody here so far, especially on Lake Nona. The interesting part about Lake Nona is nobody on this council was here when Lake Nona was purchased. And yet it is continued to be one of the top communities in the country. And the reason for that is because you create a plan and you implement the plan, and we know what the boundaries of our plan are, and we move forward in the most appropriate way. I've had, as some of us have had personal experience more with Baldwin Park, and similarly, it came in lots like a CDD, and thank you, Scott, for your idea. That's a great idea. Bring in a CDD, let those who come in help pay for the infrastructure and keep that cost from city residents. Again, prior to Lake Nona getting recognized, Baldwin Park was recognized as one of the great places, and then prior to that, Celebration was recognized, all because they were areas that had quality planning, and they implemented the planning, and they had backers behind it that knew the importance that if they didn't create a good product, people didn't come there. And you can only create a good product in a way that begins to grow as the needs grow of the community. I never would have imagined 20 years ago that we would have a number of people in Lake Nona today. But it has continued to grow in a quality manner in such a way that makes it up. Let me cover just a couple of quick mind points. The question that we have to ask ourselves is, why are we here? Why are we at this point? Why is Desiree moving forward? Why is Sunbridge moving forward? And the answer is because our county commission feels like that they have a better handle on the needs of the community, and they do that 8 years at a time. We have more, and I can't think of anybody. Shan, you don't count because you just got elected, but Bakari, you're 6 years? 5 years, okay. So, and what we have is you have consistency in leadership. And what that means is when these plans come forward, as our staff will tell you, Commissioner Sheehan and I look back and go, wait a second, 20 years ago, this is what we thought. What has changed? And that consistency of leadership happens within our own body, and so we can move forward with it. It seems to me that the county is moving at the whim of the flow of the clouds, and it bothers me a great deal because nobody is standing up and saying, guys, this is what we need. If they did, there wouldn't be a reason for a referendum because you'd be able to go to somebody and get an answer and move forward with it. That concerns me. The second thing that concerns me is that the picture that has been placed by some of our county friends, and I don't mean this within the government, but necessarily in the county, is that the city is out for this land grab. You've heard the mayor. We can't do a land grab. It's illegal for us to do a land grab, okay? I mean, so it's a voluntary annexation that came to us, and we have an obligation to evaluate that voluntary annexation. Now, I'll tell you, I met with the Desiree folks, and I will tell you, I have concerns about public safety and providing support out there. I don't have concerns about water. I don't have concerns about those because you know what? Those are the same concerns the county has, and they were already effectively addressed. But we're going to have to address public safety in a different way than how the county's doing. And the answer is we've got time to accomplish that task, and we have a good part of it that wants to do it. Okay, so. The last thing, which always has kind of caught me by surprise, is that if you live in the city or the county, you pay 4.4 mils to the general budget of the county. There is not a financial benefit to anybody in the city or the county to come into the city. They pay the same amount. The valuation is the same thing. I think the key with Sunbridge coming forward is that we can move a little faster on the plans that the county had, and if they move faster, candidly speaking, we ought to get a thank you note from the county commissioners. Because we're going to be able to move faster and generate revenue and property management and property values, and they're going to pay those money. They're going to pay the same amount of money, but they're going to pay it faster than they would if they sat on the outside of that and keep forcing this down, forcing this issue. But my point is that the county gets the same amount of money, and it's a little disingenuous for the county to talk about the other issues related. We have issues identified with water. We have issues identified with sewer. We would have to identify how we're going to address public safety. Those are already there and already in place, whether we like it or not. And now all of a sudden the question is, how are we going to handle land management in the future? And I believe I have, after dealing with this council and knowing how responsive we are to the citizens in our communities, I have a great deal of faith in this council, even now and even in the years to come, because I think that this is the kind of thing I think that we ought to have. Please come, tell us what you think. And our city is a little different, and I give this credit to the mayor. We just have chosen never to air our laundry in public. So we want to have a conversation, let's have a meeting, come tell us what you think. And every citizen has a right to stand there and tell us whatever they want to tell us, and that's okay. But as you know, in trying to accomplish these tasks, it is counterproductive to scream and yell. So let's figure out how we can do that. And in doing that, we come up with great products like Baldwin Park, great products like Lake Nona. And we've done that by this council insisting that our staff engage the community to make this the best project available, okay? That's what this council has done. I can't speak for anybody who is upset with government and they don't like government and what they're doing. I'm sorry, I can't speak to that. I can only speak to my experience for the last 19 years here. And in that, I think that we can move forward in a fair way. So, Mayor, I'm supporting this. I want to raise the issues of public safety. We need to have a plan in place. I'd like to see an outline of a plan as this comes forward in the next few weeks. Kind of a time frame, a Gantt chart of some sort. That would be important to me, because I don't want us to have the burden of the rest of the city to cover public safety needs. Everything else is already covered, but I don't want the rest of the city. No, there's not a whole lot that we have to do different than what's being done today, but I think we need to address that and figure out how we're going to accomplish that task. I will share one quick thing, which I think is a little bit interesting. The city of Orlando has the highest ranking of response to police and fire in the entire country. There's 17 that are the same level as us. The closest one to us is Winter Park. Now, Orange County claims the same thing, and that's okay, but it is a little bit disingenuous for somebody to say that the response times are terrible, and so you shouldn't do this because of the response times. That's not fair. Response times for Orange County in this particular piece of property is terrible. And if you live in a cabin and you have a heart attack, you don't see somebody for 45 minutes, okay? And that's the way it is today. And that's the way the county responds, and that's the way the county fire responds. Because why? You're so far away. That's a real concern that we have that we're going to have to figure out how to address. Okay? Okay.
Nope. You guys are done on talking over in the commissioners.
So my thought is that we have to address that in advance. It was the same questions that were raised with Lake Nona. It was the same questions that were raised with Baldwin Park. We all looked and said, here's Baldwin Park, and we're getting ready to have 25,000 people there. And how are we going to respond to that? And the answer is you have to put together a plan, and we're going to move. And for the first part of Baldwin Park, we had partnerships with the county, and then we took it over ourselves. I mean, this is not something that cannot be addressed. But it is a little bit concerning to me that people just say stuff and there really isn't a barrier. There really isn't, I guess there's a barrier. They don't have a barrier to what they can say, but need to be proof text. And we actually happen to know those proof tests, right, Chief? I mean, we actually know those figures, and we can tell you how long it takes, and we can tell you what staffings are, and we can do that. But just because you say it doesn't make it true. It's okay to affect your opinion. It's just not necessarily accurate. And by the way, it's exactly that way today. We would I would recommend that we would have the same level of service that the county provides today. And that's acceptable to the property owner. And as we move forward in a plan, then we're going to be okay with that. And we'll move forward in a plan. So, Mayor, I'm in favor of this, and you know, deep down inside, the whole county ought to come into the city, frankly, because the city runs better than the county does. But that's just me. But I think the key is that we have an opportunity to kind of set a course forward, and an opportunity to say effectively to the rest of the community, we kind of know what we're doing, and come follow us. We're okay with that. So, Mayor, that's my comments. I apologize. Thank you for letting me be a little bit long.
Okay, we have a 5:01 budget hearing, but I'm going to announce that we will conduct that hearing at the conclusion of this one. Commissioner Rose?
Thank you, everyone who came out to speak today. I think I'm the only one at this dais who has been in community planning. I've worked in both the permitting office as well as the CRA. And one thing I can say is our policies are very stringent, but we are intentional with smart growth, how we build a city. We're very intentional about connectivity. I would say a lot of people have to realize that Orlando itself, the city of Orlando, was built in pieces and parts, which is what, in this case, we're trying to avoid. We're trying to avoid the parts and pieces and look at one collective area being built. Commissioner Gray mentioned something that I spoke to the developers and I've spoken to staff about. Public parks is going to be extremely important, and we would seek that the developer they would take that responsibility and would make sure that we ensure that there is adequate park space. I'm really big on families and children having access to parks, so that's really a big thing. I've heard from several of the individuals who spoke today, and I would like for us to consider some sort of advisory board or task force. That way, we ensure that the residents have a say-so as we move forward.
You'll be part of the process, and any other stakeholders that reside in the area that feel like they need to be part of the process, our doors are going to be open to that. We will certainly try to adhere to past promises that have been made. What those are, so I can't say we absolutely will, but we will try to do that as best that we can. I believe that we are working with a landowner that cares about the property that they have managed for since the 50s. So what's that, 70 years, 75 years now, and they care what it's going to look like. And I'm comfortable being a partner with an entity like that. I expressed to Farmland Reserve that, hey, the likelihood I'm not going to be here in 16 years, maybe not 4 years. And the response was, yeah, but there's a culture at the city of Orlando that we would like to deal with, and we think it's long established that you do quality, sustainable development, and that is what we do. So with that, I will ask if there's any further Oh, Commissioner Ortiz, you're killing me. Commissioner Ortiz.
I know you love me when I talk, so it's going to be very short. Well, what the mayor was saying, that culture he's talking is about commitment and consistency. That's what we represent here. You're here today, we're listening to you because we care about what you have to say. And I know you're concerned about what's going to happen in the future. But the difference between us and the counties is, as the other commissioners were talking about, is the experience. We have not been here just 4 years, right? Years. Most of us have been here for more than that, longer than that. And I think through the years we have shown our commitment and the fact that we do listen. And I know a lot of people are scared because they think, oh, this huge development. Well, it's not a huge development. It's not happening. It's not happening now. They're just moving to the city because things have not happened in the county. We have Mr. Andrew Mine here, and I hate for you to be listening to all this because I know you represent the county, you're proud of that. But in the words of Commissioner Wilson, it was not us. And taking considerations what you bring to the table, or you rather do with somebody who you end up. And in 4 years or 8 years, they might change to another commissioners, and you're in trouble again. So this is not about combating against, it's not a combat between the county and the city. It's about consistency, it's about commitment. It's to see how we can work together. We have a long history with the Sierra Club, and we have worked together. OUC have worked with them. We have worked with them. We want to continue doing that. We don't want to see sad faces. We're doing this together. And I think we can continue to keep on talking to each other and continue to develop in whichever way. Because the other thing is people are moving, as the mayor have said before, to the Central Florida region in the thousands, over 1,000 people a week. We can only have so much space to keep stacking people up. So we're going to have to do some movement, expand a little bit, but we have to do it responsibly, transparently, and more so with your feedback. As people have said before, we have to listen to you. You want us to listen to you, we're listening to you. Give us the opportunity. Those of you that live in the county, that may not have lived in the city, give us the opportunity to prove to you that we are the government that you're looking for. You're the people you want to work with. That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Further discussion, hearing none. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. Okay, I got it 6-1. Okay, we
Mayor
need to
Dyer.
clean up. We need to clean up 2 items. What do you got, Commissioner, or Stephanie?
Ordinance number 2024-48.
48?
48.
You need
Number
to-
10.
What do you need to do with that?
We need to redo the whole thing.
Say it again?
We need to redo the whole thing.
We need to do it again?
Yes.
Okay. All right, do-over on ordinance 2024-48. Would you please read it?
Ordinance number 2024-48, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending the Orlando Health Plan Development Zoning Ordinance to add approximately 2.3 acres of land to the Plan Development Zoning District, such land being generally located north of Miller Street, south of Columbia Street, west of South Orange Avenue, and east of South Division Avenue, providing a conforming legal description, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's error, permit disclaimer, and an effective date.
So moved. And I just want to say that's why I was confused.
Okay.
I read it wrong.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Stewart. We don't have anybody to speak on this. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and so the motion carries. All right, I screwed up the first one, so let's go back to hearings ordinances. First read, 2024-42. I need a motion to reconsider the motion by which we continued that.
Oh, okay. So moved.
Motion and a second. Discussion, all in favor of that indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed. And so
Mayor, who was the motion?
Sheehan.
Thank you.
It's to reconsider. Jody pointed out to me that it will be cheaper in advertising if we continue it to a specific council meeting today versus just leaving it open. What's the date of our next council meeting?
October 7th.
Okay, then let's, I need a motion to continue this item to the October 7th commission meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Stewart. All in favor indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? And so